Hello world, it's PG.biz podcast. I am your host, Peggy Anne Salz. Brian is actually braving the snow, but he will be around for the next episode for sure. And in the meantime, well, we're going to look at a topic that you couldn't start January 2024 without. It is the word, right? AI. Everywhere. I recall it must have been 2017. I'll give myself a little pat on the back that I did write in Forbes at the time that you couldn't do UA without AI. And fast forward, guess what? You cannot, but you can do it with the help of companies like the one I'm going to be talking with, because it's not just about AI to optimize. It's about AI to, as my guest puts it, revolutionize. What she has is a revolutionary AI algorithm, and we're going to chat about that and what you can do to take the heavy lifting out of UA with the help of AI. So let me welcome Günay Aliyeva, co-founder of Gamelight, a company that is doing just what I've been talking about, right? We're going to chat about AI, but also we're going to talk about you because I am very intrigued. Your career has spanned 3 startups that you've founded and scaled successfully, including a mobile publisher, Catbite. Love cats. We'll get to that though. So you've been there at both publisher and company, helping publishers. Yeah. Welcome, first of all, to PG.biz, Aliyeva. Great to have you.
Hi, Peggy. Great to be here. We're excited to discuss AI, mobile gaming, mobile advertising with you.
And love to hear about the AI algorithms. I'm a little bit of a geek. But first, I have to congratulate you. You're very active in social. And you've been talking about your listing, your latest listing in the Singular data. You account for, get this, nearly 12% of all ad spend for match 3 games globally. That's quite an accomplishment. So first of all, congrats for you. What'd you do? Have a party there at the, at the company, or how did you mark that? How important was that?
It's very important because we've been building the company and scaling since over a year now. We launched just a bit year ago, and initially we were thinking, are we doing the right thing? Then we started getting the feedback from advertisers that they're very happy with the quality. But then for a year, we wouldn't have something like, for example, Singular reports or AppsFlyer Performance Index, which was paused for a year. And then right one after another, there was AppsFlyer Performance Index, and we were top 3 there, right next to Facebook and Google. And then a few months after, we saw on Singular, we are covering 12% of match 3 gaming ad spend. So it's very exciting to see, and we are very excited to see what's coming next.
And you've only been around for a year. So that is a story in itself, probably for another show. Just like, how do you do that? That is stellar, such a rise. But you're also in strategy, you're in mid-core, you're across them all. And I think the thread here that ties them all together is the focus on in-app purchase. That's what you can optimize.
Exactly. So we are very good driving growth and retention engagement for games that monetize primarily with in-app purchases. Those would be mid-core strategy, social casino, match 3, other casual titles. So I would say, yes, that's what also AppsFlyer Index showed and what Singular report showed too.
So I have to ask, we'll get deeper into the algo in a minute, right? But that is intriguing in itself because there's something therefore about the dynamic of an in-app purchase and the ability of an AI-enabled marketer through Gamelight. There's a match there. No pun intended for match 3. I just thought of that, but there is a match there about what is required and what can be done. Unpack that for me a little bit. Why is it, or is it the case that AI is effective or even more effective when you're optimizing for in-app purchase as perhaps some other activity in the funnel?
So games that monetize with in-app purchase, they usually would have more events within the game, right? They would have different events, different tutorials, levels, villages, and so on. And usually it is very helpful for AI because it needs maximum data, as much data as possible to be input there. This is lacking a bit more if it's a hyper-casual title, for example. Because users stick around shorter, there's less time for AI to learn, there are less events for them to learn because it's more or less around watching more ads. Those also work quite well on Gamelight depending on the genre of the games. For example, if it's a puzzle title with Admon, those would work well too. But primarily, I would say it's in-app purchase because there is way more things to learn for the algorithm and optimize towards.
That goes in with what you have said about your AI algorithm. It looks at user behavior. You're going to see more user behavior over time if you have more events. Now, an algorithm is also programmed by people. And you have had a talk recently lifting the lid a little bit on the secret or special feature in your algorithm. We know it learns from player behavior. This is real behavior, real activity, real events. What else do you have baked in there?
The best thing about the algorithm is that it's self-learning. So if, for example, there was a time period where we had a lot of data input and for some reason it didn't reach the goal, it will optimize the way it's approaching the campaign optimization, and it will improve the way it's recommending the games to users, how the user behavior can impact the ROAS within the game, and will self-learn from its mistakes and improve it, and will be true for all campaigns, for all games from then on.
It's about optimizing that experience, getting the most, increasing in-app purchases, obviously generating revenues. But the prize I'm hearing more and more in the industry is when AI can sort of like look at the audience and identify the new segments, the players that you might be able to make a bit more loyal and a bit more active if you only really tried. So tell me a little bit about how you extract new value out of existing audiences, or even pinpoint new audiences entirely. There are a lot of games companies, they say, our target audience is X, and they completely ignore the Y. And then AI is that little nudge that also helps you find those new audiences. What are some examples that you can share?
Yeah, that's an example that you gave is very good, because that's basically the core how AI optimized to. So what we have seen until now is companies optimize towards manual set groups, such as if it's a strategy title, they will target male, 30 plus, maybe higher OS. But it doesn't mean that every, let's say, 35-year-old male with OS 13 plus will love their game, right? They will not. That's an average numbers they've got from a lot of data that they've analyzed. And there are also female, which might be 18 years old, which might absolutely love their games. And this is very difficult for humans to analyze, because that's very granular data to look into. And you can't then simply target one single user and then the other single user within different age, gender, OS groups. This is not happening. That's what UA managers are doing, is they are setting those groups based on absolute averages and hoping that now their results will reach the goals, that the KPI goals that they set. What AI does, it doesn't do any of those groups. It doesn't create any of those average segments for campaigns. What it is doing is analyzing patterns. So it's trying to find patterns between different users, which could be the app usage data, how they behave within the game, outside the game, within our app, before with other games, and so on, and tries to find patterns that would be the best for each game. This pattern might be for 18-year-old female or 40-year-old male. They might have similar patterns, which means for this certain game, this would be the best user, no matter what is the average data says.
What's really cool about this is it really challenges what we think we know. And I like that. I like being surprised. What was the surprise in your case, where it's like it discovered an audience, like, you're kidding me. It's like just the wildest thing that you have discovered, and the incremental value that it created.
The wildest thing we have seen is probably the ARPU that we deliver to partners, because we have done UA ourselves too, right? I've also been in the industry since more than 10 years, and I've done exactly UA for mobile apps and games. And we usually learn that you can optimize, you can increase your ARPUs or ROAS by 10, 20%, 30% if it's a good channel. And those are the numbers that I was used to as well. And then once our AI algorithm, we built it, and then it optimized first results, and we started seeing twice higher ARPUs, then 3 times higher ARPUs, then 4 times higher ARPUs. And then you realize how much revenues and value you can create with your game and with the limited user base, and how it could have been possible before too with the AI, because it's still the same users. What we do is we simply make sure that we find the right user and don't show the game to users that wouldn't love it. So you get your core audience to your game, and you get massive ARPUs thanks to the AI algorithm.
And it's the same audience. It's the same players, but you're 4xing your ARPU.
Exactly. So what actually we have seen also, this feedback that we get quite often from partners, because we work with very large games too. They usually have very saturated markets. A lot of people play their games, and they have very limited audiences already, right? And it's difficult sometimes first acquire new users with a limited audience and then generate higher revenues with them too. And what happens with us, with the same limited audience, they can now generate 4 times higher revenues. this massively improves the whole revenues of the company, of the game, the valuation, because now instead of making way less revenues with the same limited audience, you can make way more with simply using AI.
So you focus on ARPU. Absolutely get that. Very important metric. But help me understand if I'm one of these games that wants to be like, gaming as a destination. In fact, now they're calling it destination gaming. Pretty cool stuff, right? Where you're looking at different metrics. You're trying to be more complex. It's really about a journey. ARPU, absolutely important. But there are other metrics that exist alongside that.
The core metrics that we analyze and optimize towards are ROAS, because this is what we hear most from UA managers too, because ARPU is good, but as long as you don't meet your ROAS goals, it's kind of useless too, because you need to get the same money back at least over whatever time that they have set. Second super important metrics is retention, because we also see from UA managers how important this is. What they want to do is engage their users, create a larger user base, create community, make the game more popular. In this case, we set the goals that they have in mind. So if they have certain things that are not necessarily revenue related, but some different engagement metrics, we can definitely optimize towards those too. What is super important is that those metrics should be natural for the game. So if they say that we want to reach retention 70% within day 90, but this is not happening usually, AI probably can't do too much. It can still be better than other channels, but it can't just do the magic and change the game, because games have different steps within them, and AI can't change those things. But whatever AI can do by finding the right users, then those will be optimized.
What can be exciting about AI is it's sort of like that thing that'll tap you on the shoulder and say, look, I'm looking at all the data that you're not seeing because it's way too complex, and I'm watching it all the time when you're asleep. And this is my suggestion. I'd like to understand, since you called it yourself a revolutionary algorithm, to what extent is working with Gamelight, yes, it does what I tell it to do and it does it well, but it can also make that helpful suggestion to say, hey, have you thought of this?
So how it works, we can't come up with new things, right? AI can't come up with new events. So it's very limited to what our partners are sharing with us. So if they are sharing more events with us, then it can definitely optimize and pinpoint what's the best thing. But if we don't see the events from partners, if we don't have those certain prospects for certain events, AI can't come up with this because it doesn't know what is happening within the game, right? So it's very important with AI, if you work with AI algorithms, to make sure that it has a lot of data, as many events as possible for as long time as possible, because then you can maximize this better. And if you limit it and treat it like non-AI channels, if you simply set certain revenue numbers, this past the prospects for purchases, and give few goals, then it can't do much, because you are right now treating it as if it was a manual targeting network or network with no algorithms at all.
You raise an interesting point there, Gunay, because it is as smart as I make it, which then if you zoom out to the larger picture, it means that I need to give AI the data it needs to perform. And that's a level of trust. Some people are a little cautious about that, or some people just aren't informed about what data and how it needs to be prepared or packaged. This is a lot for a marketer to get their head around, especially if they're just starting out, or maybe an indie who's just embracing AI because hearing so much about it. I mean, the 4x numbers would get anybody interested in the gains that you can have. What do you say to someone who's cautious about giving up control to the algorithm and trusting it with this data?
First of all, usually marketers, when they start launching campaigns with us, they see immediately how much higher ROAS, ARPU, retention engagement numbers they can get. We have multiple case studies where our UA managers mention, not our UA managers, but UA managers of game publishers that work with us, they mention how they get their results immediately from day one. There is no learning periods, long learning periods. Also, what AI does is, because before the users even see the game, we already analyze a lot of data. So it's not after they download it, but also before the download happened, before recommendation happened to them, we already know that this user might be a good fit for this game. So we can deliver better results immediately from day zero, day one, we are reaching the partner goals. Now this makes it very easy for UA managers usually to optimize, because there is very little input that they do, because they can simply set ROAS goals, they can set retention engagement goals, and share the data with us and reach their goals without too much optimization going on. And when it comes to trust, I think it's more of a mindset probably, because we have this issue with any new technology that comes around, right? People might not trust it immediately, but once they start seeing first results from themselves or maybe from others, they open up more because they see that AI algorithms right now are the next generation of UA, and sooner or later, more companies will switch to those because it can bring much better results, and there's no reason to refuse using those.
I heard you say that you deliver results right off the bat, which is astounding, because what I'm always hearing when I'm talking with marketers is they have this stress, right? Because when you first do it, it dips a little bit. And then it's the stress test. It's like, how do I explain to my boss that I just optimized? That's why it's in decline, but it's going to pick up and everything's going to be just fine.
Yes, we don't have this issue at all. What happens with us is that partners launch their games, and within 1 day, 2 days, they just double caps, then they double caps again, they increase, but it just goes extremely higher scale within a very short time. And usually UA managers that manage our channel, manage Gamelight, become star employees, so to say, because we grow to be very big for the game publisher, sometimes number one network or number two, number three, within a very short time. So, and it's also new network because there were not too many new channels within the last few years that you could onboard, right? It's very established companies. It's Meta, Google, Iron Source, Unity, AppLovin, and it's basically covering the top channels for everyone. And now some UA manager onboarded us, testing something new, and suddenly it became higher than those channels that they're used to, and it's working immediately really well. So usually we don't see this concern from UA managers. It's more like they were excited to manage the channel because more they do, more it grows, and we reach their goals, and they can simply launch more countries or more games with us.
Well, it is interesting watching your evolution. I'm going to continue to watch that because, of course, when something has that impact, it's going to be one to watch. Your company has evolved because you have a team. I spoke with them. They are so pumped about you. It's like, oh, and this is without you being on the call. So they're not, they don't have to be like this. And I've spoken with them as like, oh, she's a multi-talent. I know now that you speak several languages. I didn't need to know that. It's like, she speaks 5 languages and she's a cat person. How incredible is that combination? Tell me about that combination, because absolutely you're more than a title. You're more than a co-founder. All of this comes together. What's that all about?
For cat person, I think we are in general, I think everyone within the team are animal lovers. So we have cat people, we have dog people, we have people with parrots. So everyone loves dogs. For example, in my family, we have cats, 3 cats and fish and parrots. And I here in Germany have a cat. My partner has cats. So everyone within the team are animal lovers, so to say. And I think we were making sure that when we built the team, when we were getting the people on board, first they must be obviously experts in what they do, right? We hired people that are very good in what they're doing. If it's BizDev, if it's account management, if it's UA tech, we gathered the best people from the industry within our team. And second, we want to make sure that people get along with each other, right? Because we spend so much time working with each other, and we should make sure that we enjoy working with those people. It just naturally happened that we have so many animal lovers, and our team chat is filled with gifs of cats and dogs. It's just completely normal just to send cat gifts to each other or dog gifts to each other. And our previous company was also Catbite, also because we loved cat. Both me and my co-founder are cat people, so it kind of just naturally happened that cat is a thing in our company.
I'm a cat person as well, so I just naturally gravitate to that, and it's a different type of person. But you're also a founder, and female. I won't go there because I believe personally that if we keep on talking about what's it like being a woman in tech, you sort of feel like something extraordinary, and it should be the norm, right? We shouldn't be doing this. I'm not going to say, what's it like being a female founder? Because you're doing it, and that's what matters. What I want to understand is how you're doing it consistently, because you've scaled 3 startups, founded and scaled 3 startups, right? That means trial and error. That means lessons and learnings. Share with me what keeps you grounded, what keeps you focused, what makes you the successful woman founder that you are.
I think first of all, when we think of founding, we didn't have investment. So we bootstrapped the companies. All of my 3 companies are bootstrapped. which meant that we had to be performance driven. We had to be profitable to grow. We couldn't simply waste investment that we would get and then go bankrupt and let go parts of the team and so on, which this wouldn't happen. So what we did is that we made sure that we focused on what we are doing. I and my partner, we both are very hands-on. We know how to grow. We know how to build the teams and how to do exactly if it's account management or if it's user acquisition, if it's design, tech, business development. We can do all of this because initially when we didn't have a team, we two of us were managing all of this together. So we had to build a lot of skills before we managed to build a team and hand over those tasks to them. And I think this is what also keeps us grounded because we kind of build it with our own hands, without investment, without huge teams from the get-go, and we had to learn everything we are doing and build over it.
It's quite a path. It's the path less traveled. The other one is a lot easier, which is, you don't do everything on your own, but that means you get to understand everything and you can think it through and make those decisions. When you see it, you fix it. There's nowhere else to go, right? So that's the advantage. And I want to leave our audience with something from you that will help them grasp that, do that, action on that, be inspired by that. So give us, as a last note, something that you would advise people to do that maybe they're not thinking about that will help them do exactly this. I mean, this is challenging times. The games industry is being challenged, but you have to up your game. What would your advice be?
I think biggest advice I can give, which I see a lot of people are making that try to launch their companies or want to build a game, is they should try to make baby steps. So not from the scratch plan the whole app, all monetization, everything before they even launch, because this is a direct way to failure. They have no idea of how users will react. They have no idea of if it will work or not. Instead, they should do as fast as possible the first MVP and then build over it. We were doing updates every day, every single day when we launched our first app. And we were building over it because then you see the feedback from users and you say, okay, this worked, this didn't work. Maybe I have a wrong idea, right? Because usually founders, they have higher ego. They always believe that they know exactly what they need to do and what should work because they have so much expertise. And then they build it and it doesn't work because it's not about what is their opinion. It's about people's opinion if the users love it. And you should do the first MVP. You should update the app often to see how users react and then build over it. I actually saw also similar to this with the creatives. What we were making the mistakes initially is that we would launch a creative for ad networks and we would do it beautiful. We would do it so nice and it was so pleasing and we were like absolutely in love with them, and then they wouldn't work. And then we would do another one which was even more beautiful and then it also wouldn't work. And then we changed attitude. We're not looking at creatives, only numbers. If it works, if we see that it's better, we make more variations of this creative. And if that works, more variation. It doesn't matter if you love it personally or not. It doesn't matter if you like it, if it is visually pleasing or not. As long as it works, that's good. And I think UA managers have this approach more, but founders usually lack this kind of approach to look more at numbers, to make decision instead of purely based on their opinion. So baby steps, analyze, get first MVP out as soon as possible, and build over it.
That is very helpful advice. And that's the balance, right? You're passionate about what you build. You're passionate about the game. You're passionate about your studio, but you also have to be aware of just reality. It is what it is, and the numbers will tell you that. Now, you can balance that against your hunch because it is about team. You said so yourself. You've got a great team. You need to balance it, and that's, I guess, where the ability comes in that you have, Gunay, because it is balancing that. It's saying, this is working, this isn't working, but this is my decision based on all of these inputs. And I want to zoom out again to what we always do at the end of the show. We ask our guests, every single one of them, every week, what's your favorite game you're currently playing, and what's your favorite game of all time?
Okay. Currently, I'm playing on desktop Tropico 6 since a while now, actually, and Project High Rise. For mobile, it is Matchmasters by Candivore and Dice Streams by Superplay. Huge fan of both games. Of all times, it's more difficult to say because it depends on the time. I would go from match 3 titles to hidden object to simulation games, so it depends on the time. But yeah, I would say for desktop, it's Project High Rise. For mobile, could be Genies and Gems, or also Match Masters.
So you're just as equally into match 3 as your company is excelling in it. That could be a reflection of that interest.
Could be. I mean, match 3 games are amazing. I think whomever I introduced them to, even if first they were like, no, I don't play this kind of games, and they would play for first 2 minutes and they're hooked. They're like, oh, I'm on level 200, I'm on level 300. So I think they are great games.
It's addictive core mechanics. I find that too. It's like, oh, I'm just going to do a little bit. And it's like, no, I'm actually dipping in quite often. And I'm getting quite into this, probably because it doesn't seem like that. It just sort of builds, right? And speaking of builder, you are quite a builder yourself in your company. I'm really interested in learning more about Gamelight. I will be watching it. And also watching you. You are out there speaking loads and doing stuff. Gunay, where could someone catch up with you in person? Maybe even get a couple tips in person about, founding, funding, scaling, the whole bit. What would be the best way?
Yeah, I'm based in Hamburg, so if anyone is in Hamburg, drop me a line on LinkedIn. I would gladly meet. I also often go to events that I visit in Hamburg or Berlin, sometimes within Europe too. Usually it's a bit more difficult this time. But if there is any event in Berlin or Hamburg, make sure to check out because I might be there.
Well, that is very cool because I'm based near Cologne. Didn't know if you knew that. And I've always wanted to just sort of like do a little trip up there, do the games and all the cool studios up there. I will stop by and see you as well. And until then, I have to thank you for a very energetic and inspiring talk. Thanks so much for sharing. And hey, my greetings to your 3 cats.
Thank you very much, Peggy. And it was really nice being with you here. Have a great day.
This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@pocketgamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter @PGBiz, and you can reach out to us through the pocketgamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at pocketgamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the pocketgamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the pocketgamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future. Until then, I'm Brian Baglow.
I'm Peggy Anne Salz, and that's a wrap until next week.